I remember when my brother went to Indonesia a couple of years back, he took a lot of photos and showed them to my family, and one of them was like of my grandpa in like a little room with his like old friends, and they're all like sitting around tea. And I think it's more for me like a sense of community, along with the culture, but more so about like people coming together and just sharing stories or like talking about their day. Like when everyone is surrounded by like tea and food, there's always something you can like bother with, even if you have nothing to say. That's kind of like my connection to it. It's just something that brings me into the culture, even if I can't really understand what the conversation is about. When I was really small and I was in Chinese school up until maybe like 7th or 8th grade, I never really realized why I wasn't becoming more fluent, or like why my Chinese is still broken, even though I felt like I was putting in so much effort into like preparing for the classes and like doing the homework. And when you think about it from a linguistics perspective, like when I first took my intro to linguistics course, they have like a small unit on language acquisition. And there's a critical period of time where when they're immersed in a language, they pick it up super easily. So like I didn't know this, my parents obviously didn't know this, and like there were a lot of times where I was like upset or felt guilty that like I wasn't being able to like converse in Chinese, or didn't feel comfortable like speaking in Mandarin. But now looking back with like that extra knowledge, I realized that it's not really my fault, and these schools don't really tailor or formulate their curricula towards like second language speakers. Yeah. But since I didn't fall into that demographic, it was really difficult for me. I felt like in a very like weird position where I had one foot in like dominant English speaking household, and then another foot in like Chinese school where everyone spoke English, but I'm just like memorizing the stuff on the board. So it is really interesting though. I am sort of passively bilingual because of it, but I do wish that my parents had approached like their stance towards language acquisition a bit differently. But also I remember like with regards to Chinese school, I would ask my dad a lot about like why is Chinese or like Mandarin so complicated, like why do people speak like this, like why doesn't, like the question that a lot of naive people ask when with regards to language is like why doesn't everyone just speak one language, you know? But it really did like spark an initial interest in like why our languages formed in different ways. So it was something that was present in my mind, and I think it was something he did plant early on, but never really thought that I would grow to love like as a person, like through an academic lens, but also just as a passion. Yeah, so linguistics is the study of languages, not necessarily knowing how to speak those languages, but more so like how languages work as a system. I thought it was really interesting how like logic and languages kind of combine, and how people try to formalize language. I had never thought of it as like a large system where you could like categorize all languages into. So I really like how like inclusive linguistics is, and I think as a field, researchers, professors, and academics are really conscious of making the field inclusive. So I really like that social aspect of research. Whenever I'm like within like a linguistics community, whether it's on the computational engineering end or just the theoretical end, people are always super passionate about what they do, and I think that kind of like leaks into you as a student. So that's definitely what's also driven me towards linguistics. I think I mentioned before I sometimes had felt guilt about not speaking like Mandarin or Indonesian. So going into linguistics as a field was kind of like consolation for me. Like even if I couldn't speak these like native heritage languages, I would at least know more about how they work. And I think it also makes it easier for me when I like want to go back and learn them formally, to recognize like how these different systems work. And also at the same time, like the study of linguistics is also agnostic from culture, I think. I mean, culture does play a big role in like what language you speak and how you're tied to that language, but I think the system of language as a whole is very like innate to just humanity, and doesn't really look at like what race you are, where you come from. I think kind of removing myself from my like Asian heritage kind of was what linguistics did, but at the same time, like, I felt closer to just being able to know more about my cultural identity through language, but also like find enjoyment in learning these languages, which I kind of lacked when I was a child. I just saw it as something that I had to do as opposed to something that I wanted to do. But now it's definitely something that, like, you know, in the next couple of years I want to take like a formal class in Mandarin, or like definitely like try and like ask my parents more about their native languages. And it's just kind of sparked like a curiosity in me that I wish I had as a child, but like can definitely develop more now.